Hey, what's up guys? John here. The housing market is going through a very unique period in time. Some markets we're starting to see home prices crash. Other markets we're seeing home prices elevated. And even some markets, in those elevated markets, buyers are willing to overpay for properties, spend 50, 100 grand over asking. They gotta get into the house. But I have a feeling that those buyers are gonna look back on a wave of regret based on what I'm going to provide for you in this video. The housing market is about to go through a massive shift. And not many people are aware of what's about to happen. I'm going to break this down for you with verifiable facts. I'll leave in the show notes below this video. Please hit the like button. When you hit the like button, YouTube's going to share this content to educate more people about what's going on. Now, also before I begin, today's video is sponsored by GreatCreditFast.com. That's GreatCreditFast.com. If you'd like to fix your credit, we'd love to help you at GreatCreditFast.com. Now take a look at this. Housing shortage fuels price bidding wars as home sales hit a low. Talking 1.4 million active homes, lowest since 2012, right? Lowest in about 13 and a half years. So many people are saying that we're going to see a housing crash because of the Airbnb crisis. We're seeing an Airbnb and collapse revenue. People are talking about this now. It's going viral on Twitter. Everyone in the mainstream is talking about it. Now, I called this 8 months ago. I said the rise and fall of Airbnb investors, and I made a prediction that interest rates were going to remain elevated. They're going to continue to rise, and we're going to start seeing people pulling back on travel. In fact, I said at that time, this is October 18th, 2022, I said Airbnb was a very lucrative way to make money in real estate and buy a second home in areas you otherwise could not afford simply by leasing out the properties for hundreds of dollars or $1,000 per night. However, how does that business model operate when the tides turn, interest rates rise, traveling becomes a thing of the past, and tourism grinds to a halt? My guess is that we will see many people impacted by the pending recession, and we could see much more inventory. Simply put, more homes for lease on Airbnb and less guests to serve. Supply and demand says that prices will simply go down, and thus we'll see many Airbnb investors facing the dark truth about their investment. They can't lease out their properties on the long term and remain profitable. They will likely walk away from their property if they can't pay the mortgage. That was my prediction in October of 2022. And that's now what we're starting to see here all throughout the mainstream media. They're talking about this now. But this is what many people are not looking at. Because, yeah, sure, there's going to be inventory that pops up, no doubt about it, with Airbnb. That's irrefutable. That's going to happen. But the real crisis among us is what we all have to watch. This mortgage situation, many people can't sell their homes because of these the golden handcuffs, so to speak. They have these really low interest rates, and if they were to sell, they'd have to then go pay more to get less of a house, right? So people aren't going to sell. But this is what they're not taking into consideration. 82.4% of property owners have a mortgage below 5%. 62% have a mortgage below 4%. And 28% have a mortgage below 3%. Think about that. 28% have a mortgage below 3%. But here's where many people get lost. 12.3% down payment. 12.3% was the normal down payment the last few years. And so when you're looking at this, you're like, okay, well, how many people actually bought houses? What was it like? Well, we'll go to Mortgage Bankers Association. It says more than 40% of all U.S. mortgages were originated between 2020 and 2021. When the pandemic drove borrowing costs to historic lows, that's good news for home buyers. Homeowners, I would completely disagree with that, who locked in cheap loans, but not so great for the Federal Reserve as it seeks to cool the economy by rising interest rates. Well, here's why I disagree with that. Because sure, you definitely want to borrow money in an inflationary environment and buy hard real assets, no doubt about it. But most people, they borrowed money, they bought a truck. They borrowed money, they bought a boat. They borrowed money, they bought an Airbnb. They borrowed money and invested. And if that other investment did not pan out well, then all it does is lever the first vehicle, that first property. And that's what many people are in right now. They're in a very leveraged situation. And they're not in a better situation than they were in 2019. But look at where mortgage rates are right now. The average credit score in America for note is 699. So slightly above average credit score is 700 to 719, right? So you're looking at a 7.88% mortgage at that rate. So look at this property here. This is in Los Angeles. Of course, LA is a little bit more expensive than most markets, but whether you live in Atlanta, or you live in Chicago, you live in Philly, you live in Miami, you live in Austin, any market, you're looking at $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 for most properties nowadays. It's crazy, but that's what you're looking at, right? Look at this property, look at the monthly payment, and look how this breaks down to get an idea of what it's actually like to be a home buyer in these markets. $675, 2-bedroom, right? This is a 1-bed, 1-bath duplex, 1 bed, 1 bath each unit, right? This property obviously needs some work, right? This obviously needs some work. You'll probably spend 30, 40 grand fixing this up, ripping it all out, but that's what you'd probably spend. Well, let's look at today's mortgage rates. With today's down payment of 12.3% down, you would need $83,000 to down payment, 7.88% mortgage. You're looking at $5,000 a month. You need $15,000 in monthly income to be able to afford this property. On top of that, you need to sit on about $83,000 in cash to be able to put down, plus you need cash reserves to probably fix the place up. And the mortgage lenders, they're going to want to see cash reserves that you can, go a couple months of living expenses. So what does this actually look like? This looks like a really, really big problem for many people that need to sell their homes. But when you have 40% of the overall housing market that acquired properties at record low interest rates, now they're looking around saying, what can I do? What are the options? What do I do now? This is where the big problem comes in, right? Because you have $5.3 trillion in cash that believes that this problem is going to be undeniable. They're sitting on the sidelines with all this money, just waiting to pounce. Whether it be buying companies, buying stocks, buying real estate, they're just sitting patient because they know Jerome Powell. He's going to continue to hike rates in the short term. Rates are going to remain elevated. The problems have not yet started in this economy. And so when you start to see job loss, when you start to see inflationary pressures, when you see utility bills rising, insurance rising, property taxes continuing to rise, what are you going to have? You're going to have an affordability crisis where people can't refinance their homes because they owe more on the properties than they're worth, and they're locked in. So what are they going to do? Some of them are going to try to rent out rooms. Some are going to try to lease out their home. Some are going to try to use Airbnb and try to generate some small income here and there while remaining in control of their full-term investments. Sure, they're going to try to do all these different things, but most of them are going to be in big, big trouble, right? And so when you're looking at this, you're like, okay, well, what are the deep pocket investors doing? Bezos has this company. It's super small right now. It's nothing to be concerned about. But Bezos, he'll start small, like he did with Amazon. He'll start with books, and then before you know, he's selling you a refrigerator, right? Before you know it, he's trying to sell you pharmaceuticals or healthcare, or he's trying to sell you anything, right? But they always start small, they get that footing, and then they expand, and they blow up, and they take over the market. He's starting really small with this company, Arrived Homes. They're starting to now pick up vacation rentals, but I can promise you that this company, in the coming 10 years, is going to become massive. Like, they're not going to stay at this size. Right? Many companies are going to be in private equity. They're going to start seizing this opportunity because there's going to be a wave of debt, a wave of problems coming. And the only people that are going to be able to get access to money to invest in real estate are people that have cash, that have good credit, that are positioned for it. That's it. But look at this curveball also that many people are not anticipating. Because when you are in an inflationary environment like we were in the last couple of years, what did people do? Right? They tried to buy as big of a house as they possibly could. Right? They really tried to invest. They didn't really take into consideration any of these curveballs coming to the economy. But here's one curveball nobody's thinking about: universal basic income. People think it's not happening. Some people think it might happen. It's going to happen, definitely. I can promise you. It's a matter of time when. When is it going to happen? 2 years? A year? 3 years? We know we're going to continue to see real wages in America continue to fall with technological and automated innovations. That's what we're going to start seeing. We're going to see more jobs being outsourced overseas. We're going to see wages fall and the cost of service debt rise. And so what is that going to do? It's going to push people into a hard position. And what is the government going to do? They're going to print money and they're going to increase taxes. That's what they're going to do. They're going to fund it. And so when you look at that 43 or 41 cities already have a universal basic income, right? 41 cities. And you look at some of just the last, call it 3-4 days, right? The dystopian truth. Let's start up at the top. Former President of Canada, Andrew Yang, pushes for universal basic income in Denver 2 days ago. 2 days ago, universal basic income payments. How experiments sending people money have worked out in the past. The dystopian truth about universal basic income. Stimulus checks. Update. Applications for direct $500 payment. 21 hours ago. 3 days ago, universal basic income payments. Big cities that have jumped into programs to give away money. They're not giving away anything. What they're doing is they're putting the masses on dependence. That's what they're doing. Because as they print money, people's purchasing power becomes greatly diminished. As they increase taxes, small businesses get greatly hit. The economy starts to change. And so the more people that get pushed into a state in which universal basic income becomes required, the more people are going to be in a very, very challenging spot when it comes to being levered to the teeth with these very low interest rate mortgages. So when people ask me, Is the housing market going to crash? I simply just look at fundamentals. Look at the everyday American. Look at the person making $80, $100, $150,000 a year. That's the everyday American nowadays in most expensive cities. And when you're looking at this person and you're seeing record high consumer debt, record high interest rates, you're seeing a situation in which they did not anticipate, how can you say, or anyone say, that they are going to be able to weather this storm? They're not. The world's changing. Look at this, for example. National Climate Task Force. National Climate Task Force. And you scroll down here and you start to really look at the changes that are going to be coming tax-wise, that are going to be changing to the grid, that are going to be changing all throughout America. It's pretty unbelievable. Lands, water, industry sector, building sector. But scroll down here and look at this. So you have Janet Yellen. Janet Yellen's on here, right? Remember she said inflation is going to be transitory? How is it going to be transitory when they're going to print a ton of money? How is that transitory? It's not. I mean, can anyone really say that we're going to step into a world in 2023 and 2024 that's going to be less inflationary than the last couple of years? I don't think so. I think we're stepping into a world which continues to get progressively more inflationary in the years to come. That's what I believe. I think the cost of hard fossil fuels will become more and more expensive. And the reason I say that is look at this lady right here, Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm. She said, she was singing a song in 2018 where she sang about the end of gasoline and fossil fuels. So if this person right here on the task force is pushing for this, and this direction is, I mean, you can't deny it. It says right here, reducing U.S. greenhouse gas 52% in the next 6.5 years, reaching 100% carbon pollution-free electricity, 2035. All these different things. These are inflationary things, right? So this is what I think is going to happen. I think that we're going to start to see the quality of living in America really fade. And I think that the people that are running out there desperately buying a home right now, I think it would make sense to exercise a little bit of patience, maybe potentially save up even more money and position yourself even in a better position, because we're going to see opportunities. We're going to see most people that did not see any of this stuff coming that are going to have to sell at the worst possible time, right? And you want to be the buyer because you know there's going to be tons of investors that are going to be out on the sidelines waiting to pick up incredible deals from people that maybe didn't see these things coming. What do you think? Drop it below, hit the like button, add me on IG, and yeah, I mean, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy when you're looking at these numbers. Drop below, though. Let's talk about it. And if you need help fixing your credit, we'd love to help you at greatcreditfast.com. That's greatcreditfast.com. Catch you guys next video.